This is episode 90 of the No BS Coaching Advice Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome. Regularly, I like to spend some time talking with you in short snippets about life, the universe, and everything. And today's show starts off with me thinking about, my wife came back from 7 weeks away. No, we're not separated or divorcing. She was on retreat and doing a training program in England for 7 weeks. And she came back on Friday, and we spent some time reconnecting as a family. And what was really sweet was us both noticing how we each missed the little things. You know, it's like there was a movie some years ago with Robert Duvall called Tender Mercies. And I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but what I remember about it is that it wasn't the big things that made that family. It was the little interactions that created the connection and the heart space. So often we focus on the big dramatic stuff and ignore the impact of the little things, the small, less obvious things that make so much of a difference to us, that really make what the relationship is. I listen to podcasts, and one of the podcasts I listen to is one by a man named Cal Fussman called Big Questions. Fussman had on a guest named Mick Ebeling, and the premise of the podcast was that nothing is impossible. And Ebeling makes a very strong case that I'm not going to go into right now. I'll just simply say that what Ebeling has done with his life in recent times is help other people and do things that others wouldn't spend the money on, wouldn't take the time to do. So, for example, there was a graffiti artist in Los Angeles who was unable to communicate because of ALS, couldn't move his limbs, couldn't speak, spent years in this, in one respect, vegetative state, but with a mind that was alive, who could only communicate by paper. And by that I mean someone would hold up a sheet of paper with letters of the alphabet, and they would go meticulously, A, B, C, and wait for a blink of the eyes to indicate recognition that that was the letter, and have this man spell out things with his blinks. They created a device that allowed him, with his mind and with his eyes, to draw again. They created another device to help a young boy who had lost his arms in Sudan. Why? Because the government would just carpet bomb civilian populations to create compliance, dropping shrapnel from the air with a lethal explosion. And when this young boy had seen this thing coming, he tried to hide, couldn't find anything to dive into to protect himself. So what he did was wrap himself around the tree. Unfortunately, what happened was his body was preserved, but he lost his arms because they were exposed to the shrapnel. And what Ebeling did was create 3D printed arms for him. And even in creating that, ran into hardships in Sudan because in printing the arms, it was so hot that the equipment couldn't really function. And this boy had traveled to where they were going to try and create these experimental arms for him. And the devices wouldn't work. And they couldn't communicate because they spoke different languages. But eventually they figured out that what they needed to do was work at night when it was just a little bit cooler. Folks, there are so many excuses that we make for why things are impossible. And what we really need to do is get into motion and start taking action in so many of the places that we think are impossible. You know, the notion of doing stuff to help others, a lot of us have gotten lazy about. We don't do other things or think of anything more than ourselves and our own needs. There's so much more that we can do if we only get into motion. We can get spurred into action by being in environments that are different than what we think we're normally comfortable in. For example, Gutenberg, the printing press. You know how he got that idea? He saw a wine press in action. That's how it happened. Or Henry Ford visited a meatpacking plant, and out of that came the assembly line. Great ideas aren't necessarily things that get created in a linear manner. Sometimes we need to extricate ourselves from our current environment and let our minds just kind of rumble around in order to get results. Where is your curiosity? What would you like to go explore? What's keeping you from doing that? And where can you place yourself in a situation where you can go out and let your mind play? And that's today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, bite-sized morsels of ideas and thoughts that I hope give you some no BS advice. If you'd be interested in my coaching you, please reach out to me through LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Ask to connect with me. I'd love to hear from my listeners. Subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this show. Frankly, we come out a couple of times a week. How long was that anyway, right? Did you smile at any point? Did it kind of make you go, huh, at any point? If the answer is no, maybe it's not for you. But I think if you listen for a while, I think you'll enjoy it. And I hope to have you back and listening some more. And with that, hope you have a great day. Take care.